You don't say it because it will then appear at the beginning.
Yeah,
as
but you
Try
didn't
and
count
look
out right. You should have
casual.
gone free, like that. But you didn't know when the live thing was going to appear, did you?
No, no one ever does.
It's random.
So,
Hello,
is it good to, is it good
and
to say?
welcome to Let's Drone Out, episode 367. Hello to all our wonderful listeners and lovely Patreon. Tonight, we are hosted by Cole,
Howdy.
our man in Canada and responsible for the fantastic artwork that you might see fronting the show on YouTube.
I think
Our
we can
correspondent
legally.
here in the UK with all his planes and little cars, Curry Kitten. Also known as everyone's favourite because he doesn't respond unless you say everyone's favourite. It's required.
Everyone's
in the contract.
favourite.
Jack in the corner with us once again.
Hello.
And myself, the idiot with the moustache. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Let's Drone Out.
Stephen went full rogue there. He got fed up with us talking bollocks and just like, I'm just going to introduce it and see what happens.
I don't know. I was thinking, how long can we let it go? You've got to push
We
it.
can let it go for like 15 minutes. It's the record. But we should start.
This is true. So, a brave new dawn for FPV under the edicts of nay Prince, now King Charles. Hopefully a supporter of FPV and the wonders that it can bring to wildlife and rural pastoral scenes of England. Get rid of those cars and let people take it over with multi-rotors. Yeah. You're waving
hope. I mean, our Prime Minister talks about drone dogs.
Sorry.
No,
our Prime Minister talks about drone dogs.
Yeah, that clip. That was Liz Truss, wasn't it? Saying about how dogs have been used to scare drones away and used as a deterrent. I think what she was getting at is there like an early warning system for like prison staff, but it did sound very much like drones can be scared away by dogs and like
it sounded an awful lot like she didn't have a clue what she was talking about and she was just smiling at the camera.
Well, that could be it as well. It's entirely possible.
Definitely an element there somewhere of just pure mouth breathing. I'm sure.
In order for a drone to be afraid of a dog, a drone would need to be able to be afraid of something, right? So,
are you trying to suggest my drones are not sentient? Did you not see that guy get fired from Google to suggesting his computer was sentient, even though it's got a specific subroutine to say, "Are you sentient?" if asked to say no, which is an interesting bit. It's like, well, it can't possibly be sentient because one of the sentient things is about abandoning your programming and doing your own thing. I've gone off topic already. I apologise. Carry on.
That's fine. Yeah. So I was looking at swimming in the waters of filthy, mucky, murky United States law with their remote ID filing of we must track your quad, except it's not privacy invading, so we won't track you, but we will track you in as much as we're going to identify your quad by a series of measures that you must comply with by September of next year, but which we have yet actually explained to anyone. But we will explain. In fact, we explained them before. You weren't here. It's legal. Get on board. You're with us or against us. All that stuff. It's as clear as a dirty puddle, but interesting in a kind of thought puzzle sort of way. It's a bit like reading a Kafka novel, the remote ID law.
It's very. They talk about it as in like we're going to enforce it. We're not going to enforce that bit. That bit's impossible to enforce. And it's just like, so what is the point? Mind you, I kind of wondered what was the point of Flow State. Did that documentary actually do anything?
Bardwell's got enough coasters to last him for the rest of his life. That's what it's done. Like whenever that guy wants to put a cup down, he's sorted like forever now.
No, I think like if he signs enough of them, I think there's enough people that want to learn something today that, will gladly buy them.
It wasn't a bad movie, but I should caveat that with saying it wasn't a bad movie, except for the bit on remote ID, which was really low speed, low paced, low energy, people standing around in tents making cardboard placards, and it killed the momentum of the whole flow state thing, unfortunately. So remote ID it's an odd one. It's about being safe and people having to know when you're flying someplace. But it's not, contrary to what most aviation people would assume, about creating a beacon that would allow air users to see your quad. It's nothing to do with the regular air beacons that you might have in light aircraft, for example, or commercial airliners.
No,
Instead, it's a system that's designed explicitly to not interfere with that, but to stand in its own right. And because it was seen early on as being a problem for privacy, it's also a system that doesn't communicate with any central server. So you have a beacon on your quad, but that beacon is not telling any authority where you are. That beacon is only telling people in your neighborhood that you're flying. So when you arm the quad, the beacon has to get a GPS lock and approve of wherever it is that you're flying and make sure it's not in some restricted area or something. And until it's got a GPS lock, it will inhibit arming. And if it loses GPS, it will think it might disarm. It needs to transmit the takeoff location and the current position and other telemetry as well. But it does so using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So if you go out into the middle of nowhere and you start flying and you're blasting your video on 5.8 gig at who knows, maybe a watt, and you've also got telemetry, and maybe you're deciding to blast your telemetry back to yourself at 200 plus milliwatts, that Bluetooth and Wi-Fi is going to be going toe to toe with those two signal sources. And so far, it looks like it's just a standard Bluetooth chip. So it's a chip antenna with Bluetooth, which would be about 100 milliwatt tops, going up against an ELRS antenna with 200 milliwatt. And it's going to be, I think it's just going to be drowned out. Like it's just going to be blown out for the airwaves. I don't know.
Just for the podcast listeners, I was holding my hands about because I'm giving you the approximate range of the Bluetooth connection.
Yeah, it's about as far as you can kick it in sandals.
And socks, potentially.
Yeah, potentially for extra purchase. Yeah.
What a weird system. But didn't DJI can do this? Are they saying? Because they've basically said we can do that now. Buy our stuff.
Yeah, DJI have said they can do it. It remains to be seen what it's actually going to achieve, though. It's a checkbox, and it's a checkbox that you need in order to fly, but the goals of this checkbox seem to be orthogonal at best, like at 90 degrees to what the system is trying to actually achieve. It's very peculiar.
You've misunderstood what the system's for, Stephen. The system is a checkbox. We've checked the box that said drones are now safe. Everyone carry on. We've fixed the problem, everybody. We've brought in legislation. Have no more worries. There will be no more deaths. There will be no babies being killed by drones, which happens 5 times at least a day currently. And
there was an interesting article that Frank posted, I think, from Europe, saying that the accidents by drones have gone down in the period before the new drone laws were introduced. The new drone laws didn't make any difference, but before they were introduced, there was a downturn in drone-related accidents.
What are some of these drone-related accidents? We got data.
Oh, the usual stuff, I guess. People into cars, into dangerous areas.
Wasn't one of them the guys with the bathtub-sized drone and launching
airspeeder?
Yeah, airspeeder. Yeah. May on High.
That's just down to
May on High's ongoing marketing campaign. Yeah, she's in full influencer mode with airspeeder right now.
Oh Jesus! It weren't bad soldering. It was bad failsafe and settings, I believe, wasn't it?
Well, the soldering didn't look good, but didn't they have it on the wrong
Terrible.
frequency and they
Tape
didn't
was
have like
involved.
fail-safe sorted? Yeah,
Yeah,
it looked
can
like Tony had put it
Has anyone
together.
got any
Quite honestly.
photos of the soldering so that Cole can feel better
There,
about
there
his
was some
soldering?
before, but yeah, it was just imagine like one of those old 1980s hi-fis that someone's kind of torn open and then thrown down a flight of stairs, and there's just like hand soldered cables everywhere, and it's all just a mess.
In my defense, Jack, I do get some good solders every now and again.
I know you do, but you were worried about your soldering, and I'm like, you don't need to worry about your soldering.
No, I've perused some of these FPV groups, and I have determined that my soldering is actually like, not terrible. Like
Yeah.
I can't see the strands of wire, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, just incomplete solder joints.
Yeah.
So what I think we're going to end up with. Sorry.
Oh, carry on. Sorry.
I was going to say on the remote ID, what we're going to end up with is like everyone has this little black box on their LiPo strap on the top of their quad, and that'll end up being the remote ID doodad. And you're just going to have to carry one if you're in the US, I guess. Is Canada free of that, Cole?
I have not heard any updates about remote ID in Canada. The thing is, I mean,
you just can't fly anywhere in Canada, basically, because everywhere's near an airport.
That's not true. But this is my take on it, because I do have like basic certifications in UK, America, and Canada. To get the one in Canada, it is way harder. Like, it's not just like if Nancy is 30 meters from a crowd of people, can she take off? Yes or no? Like, it's actually a lot harder to complete these the RPAS exam here in Canada. There's a basic and the advanced, and even the basic one, like, it's I want to say it's like at least 50 times harder and requires a lot more research, studying. Just there's a lot of material that you have to cover in order to even know what the heck the test questions are even about, and it has everything to do with weather, NOTAMs, like actual aviation. Like it's mostly all aviation sort of curriculum, whereas the U.S. trust ones and I don't know about Part 107. I'm sure that one's a little more in depth, but maybe Canada's like, okay, the barrier of entry is harder because the exams are harder or whatever. I'm speculating here, but I don't know. It's I hope they don't implement remote ID, but I'm thinking like, okay, you got to be like somewhat knowledgeable on the topic to get the license. So maybe we don't need to track everything. I don't know. I have no idea.
There's a bad habit of countries copying other countries. Do you ever think you say it's just something you could put on your battery strap, but it sounds like it has to get a GPS lock and it interrupts you arming your quad. So it seems like it has to be a little bit more integrated than just suddenly this thing if you're not allowed to fly unless you have it. What's ridiculous though, that you can fly ultralights and microlights in the US without any such stuff. You don't have to have a beacon.
I don't know. You have to have in big letters experimental. I know that.
Do that.
Well, yeah, sub 250 here is basically you don't need a license. You don't need a you don't have to do a test. You don't have to have a license. You don't have to register anything. But you can't be an idiot. So it's I don't know.
I'm talking about like manned flying.
They definitely allow
ultralights, microlights. Yeah. You can fly those without pretty much. I think like ultralights and stuff. You don't have to have like pilot license. You don't have to have beacons on board or stuff like that. You're just like, oh, I'm off flying. Bye.
Huh.
see Peter Schriepel's channel for examples of just like building stuff and flying it. There's certain laws.
Skin in the game, though, Curry. Skin in the game.
Yeah, it's a well-known fact. Like most aircraft pilots, like Harrison Ford and others, are much more careful about their aircraft because they're actually piloting it themselves. Therefore, they don't crash or in any way risk other people's lives. It's a
Yeah.
fact.
Fair enough. And that's
Skin
why
in
they
the
don't
game.
need any legislation.
Skin in the game, man. It's the law.
Yeah. You're all right to be a bell end as long as you put your life in jeopardy at the same reason as everyone else.
Jack, what are you doing? We're not holding your attention. What are you up to there with your soldering iron?
Oh, I'm just trying to clear some space because my desk is horrendous and I can't read the chat because I've propped my
You're trying to
keyboard up like
unsolder
that.
your way out of a mess. I was slightly confused there because there was definitely
Yeah.
smoke coming out of it earlier.
Oh,
I
that
think-
was me removing the burnt plastic on the end of it because
See.
it had melted into this plastic bag.
Oh,
Nice.
So I was just cleaning that off.
just cleaning
Because-
off the tip.
Yeah, because no doubt the next time I use it will probably be somewhere, or I'm desperately trying to fix something, and all I can smell is burnt plastic, and that sort of like makes you a bit worried. But yeah, my desk. Is there anything that's got my address on it? Yeah, but my desk literally looks like that. I have no free space.
The trick is to light it all with this distracting blue lighting so people can't see the huge pile of shit, or at least not till they really try and focus on it.
It looks more techno, less pile of shit, you know, rather than just
that kind of techno.
no, like technological, you know.
When Cole described the Canadian FPV test, it instantly reminded me of the XKCD article of like the Raptor exam. Velociraptor spots you at 40 meters away and attacks, accelerating at 4 meters per second, up to its top speed of 25 meters per second. When it spots you, begin to flee, quickly reaching your top speed of 6 meters per second. How far can you get before you're caught and devoured?
Nice.
You're at a question 2 with an equilateral triangle where one raptor has a wounded leg and is limited to 10 meters per second top speed. At what angle should you run to maximize the time you stay alive?
Oh my god, that seems like a Tomb Raider maths exam.
Yeah. That's funny.
Indeed.
Gary, I hear that you've.
Oh no,
you've
Jack!
told-
Jack, I was wrong. I lied. I was misinformation.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Oh yeah, this is me saying I've collected Avata crashes, and Cole thought I'd bought one and crashed it, which
yeah.
neither two are true. What I was doing is I'm always interested when a new DJI quad comes out, because there always seems to be multiple people who have much more money than common sense, and they do things like, it's my first flight, I should try and go as far as I can and try and ignore the whole battery thing, or something example like that. So I started looking around for like specific crashes to see what would happen, because I think the problem is with this sort of drone is they sort of advertise it showing, doing wishy FPV bits. So people are going straight to this from nothing, or they've flown something like a Mavic and they're like, yeah, I know how to fly it, and then they just start whooshing their hands around.
Fly it around a
with the,
multi-story car park and take it home in
Yeah,
a
that
carrier
sort of
bag
thing.
in 15 different bits.
And yeah, you can, in most cases, and I've seen an awful lot of crashes, and a lot of the times it's just like people hitting bushes, people hitting a floor, because they've gone beyond their skill level, and instead of going nice and slow and slowly ramping up about what they do, they just go for it. But I did find a couple of people that did entertain me that I wanted to share with you guys. And what I'm going to
have
to
you
do,
got a highlight reel of? Because this reminds
haven't-
me.
I'm afraid I haven't produced an entire highlight reel, but
This
This-
reminds me of the Christmases, where you'd follow Twitter and hear that they'd given kids Phantom 4s for or Phantom 3s for the Christmas present, and you could just sit there and view all the lost drone things on Christmas and Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Carry
That's the
on,
fun stuff.
Gary.
So what we got here, this guy is in Las Vegas. If you've ever hiked around Las Vegas, you'll know it's about 1,000,000 degrees. What was interesting about this, it seems an experienced guy, But if you
Oh,
have
I
a look
think I
at the
know who this
bottom
is.
about his battery, yeah, he's got quite a lot of subscribers. He's talking about where he lost it. He finds it eventually, but if it just gets to the DVR bit, and there's not much of it. But look at this bit here. Battery level low, throttle output and that's going to be restricted. Because then he talks about, I got a little low, and I tried punching up to get out.
40%.
44%. That's not really like.
Why is it restricting battery at 40%?
But he couldn't pull out of it, and so he crashed, and it took him a long time to find that. But unfortunately, sadly, he did find it, which I found.
Well, let's rewind and discuss why
amazing.
your throttle would be restricted when you're at 43% battery, and why that's a good idea.
Oh, now I have to.
I guess he the battery got ejected, and that's the battery ejected, so he couldn't actually do like any kind of beeping or whatever to try to track it down. But yeah, I guess he hiked for a good amount of time and ended up finding it, which was interesting.
So this is quite a typical DJI thing, that if your battery does become low, it restricts you. So you can go full. You'd have to go multiple throttle to get a slow lift off, because that stick's not really a throttle in a lot of cases. It's the up and down stick. But yeah, it is interesting, as you say. It says 43. He's only been going 3 minutes 18. I've seen a lot of things where crashes and it says battery error. Reinsert your battery. Perhaps that's the sort of thing. But yeah, because what literally happened is he tried to punch out there, and it's just like, okay, we're working on it, we'll crash, and then he.
But there's my argument is there's no such thing. You're thinking that the throttle of the gun makes you go up and down. It doesn't. You have to point the stick upwards.
I'm pretty sure he was using.
He was flying. Because we can see no pointer on the screen, I think he was flying with a proper controller.
Yeah, yeah. But then the other thing too was, so was it that did he lose signal or did he fail safe? Is that what it was as well, or?
No.
The video, if you look at it, the video goes a little bit glitchy. Caroline's got it right. Yeah, it's Billy Kyle.
Billy Kyle.
His name. Yeah. So if you look here, I don't know if it's smooth to you, but it's sort of glitching here, and it's breaking up, and that's when he tries to get out of it. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And he's off hiking in the desert.
Desert crevice sort of landscape. So that must have been an absolute nightmare to find.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he got it back.
Power to weight ratio.
Yeah, I mean it is a whoop at the end of the day. That's the problem. You can't. It's not like a 5-inch. You can dive, and when you're about 1 inch from the floor, you just flick the throttle and whoomp, back up again.
Yep.
But this next one is much more amusing because it did not survive, and I always think, well, that's fun.
Caroline posted a video where the guy just failed in the most ignoble way possible. They were zooming around a field and they stopped and just flipped upside down.
Post the link.
On the grass.
Oh yeah, links in the chat there.
He's in manual acro. Yeah. Oh, last 20 seconds of massive crash. Yeah, I kept looking for ones that massive crash, and I was disappointed because they just crash in a field and stuff. And I was like,
yeah, it was a really lame crash, but the crash is just one that you wouldn't do on a quad. It looked like a yaw washout, and the person just overreacted and dunked it.
Yeah,
yaw washout is a problem with these quads because they don't have enough power, right?
All whoops suffer from that because of their design. But I also noticed that when these things crash, there's this tendency for the DJI controller to sort of try to throttle up to get out of it, and the IMU's all out of whack, and so it all goes a bit crazy trying to get there, and people then freak out and what's my drone doing? This is particularly amusing. This is over sort of a harbour. This guy's flying around, and it looks quite reasonable. He's doing a pretty good job. Unfortunately, the seagull got in the way, and he goes down in the salt water. And that is
Game over. Game over, man. Game over.
That's giving me some flashbacks to a couple of weeks ago.
What did you hit?
Seagull.
I didn't hit anything. A seagull. It what's the term? Kamikaze, didn't I? I think I showed it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, on the bonus.
Ah, yeah.
Ah, kamikaze. You're saying it was down to the seagull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With these products, DJI is slowly kind of crossing the Rubicon where they're no longer pushing a camera around the sky, and the sort of flight performance that the DJI quads achieve is not enough for the type of flying they're promising their customers at this point.
Well, they're sort of, oh yes, look at us, FPV, look what we can do. But then it's not, yeah, like you're right, it's not on the same caliber as what we're expecting, or people that are actually in the hobby are expecting. People that aren't in the hobby, they're like, oh, a drone, it flies, woohoo!
It's got the visuals, it's got the range, and it's got the speed, but that just lets you get yourself into a situation that the flight controller and the powertrain can't get you out of.
Yeah.
This video is particularly annoying from the fact that this guy's really difficult to listen to. This is literally the guy you'd least like to be stuck in an elevator with. Called Philly Drone Life. Apologies to anybody that thinks he's amazing, but you only have to look at where he's flying and look at his overcorrections.
Whoa.
It's like, what
Oh,
are
my
you doing
word.
down this street? And what?
That guy
he clearly
needs
can't fly.
to be on a simulator.
And
Is
then
that,
what he said
wait,
is,
is that with the Avata?
this is with the Avata, and then he
He's
said,
making it look
he
really
said-
difficult, and for our audio listeners, he's flying down a street that's like 20 feet wide, and he's jerking
And he's
around like
rolling.
he's trying to hit some kind of racing gate.
and then he claimed he was doing a power loop,
Oh my God.
which is a weird
Oh
thing.
my
and then
But, I mean,
it's
he's got
back
halfway
upside
there, to
down
be
on the
fair.
roof.
That
Got
was,
halfway through.
God.
At least he didn't hit any of the cars that he was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, really.
I
brushing.
kind of want to
and-
hear his voice now that you said that you wouldn't want to be in a condo with him in an elevator. I'm curious now about his voice.
I'll send you a link
Oh.
later. You can listen to him in your own time. But I don't
Apparently,
think
this
it's
is the
him.
guy that must have flown a video and then bragged about it in the past with who's trying to fight against a $182,000 fine for doing
That's
stupid
amusing.
flying. So he's bought
That's
an
not
Avata
him.
and is continuing to fly down residential streets badly. If you're gonna fly and boast about it on YouTube and get massive fines, at least learn to fly. I mean, come
Didn't
on.
he have a?
Dude,
didn't
it was
he
like
have a
rolling,
fundraiser?
like going down the street.
It's just all over the place. It's,
Must be drunk.
that is literally like,
worse.
not only are you flying down a street, it's not like you can even
know how
have
to
the skill
fly.
to stay in a straight line. You're like, whoa, I'm back and forth,
Yeah.
back and forth.
And like Richard Warwick says, yeah, I could empathize if he was trying to fly like a tiny whoop through chair legs at speed. Yeah, sure.
like,
But
little
he's
bit,
in a street. Massive
yeah,
street.
that's
This is-
that. Wow.
People writing checks, their skills can't cash. The last one is, I think, my favourite, because this guy is flying. Let me just pop up the thing. We might want to rewatch this bit because I watched it lots of times and it never gets tired. This guy, again, it's kind of one of these like, oh, I've got the skills. Look at me.
Nice
check me
scenery.
out.
37% battery.
And he's
How
clearly
much would
flying
I have
because
to pay you to drink that water?
you see
A
he's
lot.
got the little thingy there, so he's flying with the motion controller. And you guys have all flown over water. You know how difficult it is to judge your height because the water
When it's calm.
looks the same up and down. But if you look
Yeah.
very carefully, to be fair, the quad goes exactly where he points it. If you look where
And
the
big
thing is
un.
pointing, he's like through the bridge,
Yep.
turning
Fine,
around. This is
working.
looking good so far. And then
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
I'm going to point it at the water for some reason.
Oh,
And then it
That's
goes
jeez.
into the
Bad
water.
fall.
Too,
Oh my
too low.
goodness.
Too low.
That one
Like-
just doesn't come back. But yeah,
It-
I'm looking at this. I'm like, did he just get distracted and just drop his hand down or something?
Oh.
Because it seemed like a pretty obvious thing.
I think what happened there is he lost the surface detail of the water. And when you look at water, you have to kind of gauge the distance from the water by the amount of detail you make out. And he turns around and the reflections change slightly and he kind of just loses his height estimation.
Well,
Water is difficult for a height like that. You got to be careful. He
This
wasn't
shot
careful.
right here.
To be fair, though, he's got it written on the fucking screen. Right? There are only so many
Yeah.
excuses. It does on the left side of the screen. Tell him his height.
Yeah, but the other thing too is like right now he is
what-
pointing kind of at the water still.
What is the height when he
It's
hits
on the horizon
it? 'Cause
line
maybe,
there. Puts
maybe
on the
he was
horizon
looking
line.
there.
It goes down below the horizon line, 4 meters,
Yeah.
2 meters.
No, look, he's
0.7
0.7
meters.
meters. He should be okay there. I think he's
But,
got.
but
He's
is
got
that
a
based on
complaint
where
there
he
for
took
DJI.
off from though? Is that where he took? Is that based on where the
That's
takeoff
clearly,
point
yeah. Well,
was?
that's relative to the takeoff point, and he wasn't standing in the lake or whatever when he took off. So
Oh god, that's.
He's saying he was standing underneath the lake.
I mean, he's going wrong at this
Doesn't it
point,
have
by
the-
aiming straight down below the horizon. That was not.
Doesn't it have the bottom sensors to stop you doing that?
Water though is a little tough
Just
to those
doesn't
sensors, I
work.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's got 29 satellites though. That's a good thing. I wonder how many he's got underwater. I like the fact that this symbol here, if you can look at my mouse, looks a bit like a scuba mask. Maybe that's why he got confused. I think it's the goggle indicator. But yeah, it does look like he maybe just thought he wants to go snorkeling. I'll oblige.
You know.
But there you go.
Mm.
That was my
Hey-o.
fun DJI Avata crashes, which are much more fun than just crashing in a field. But yeah, I have to look out for some more because they do amuse me. Only because people seem to have more money than sense. It's that old chestnut, and it's
By a long way,
really funny
yeah.
to watch them lose their toys. But I'm sure they'll just go and buy another one. A lot of these people seem to have DJI refresh. They think it's a license to act like idiots and like, oh, it went wrong. Give me a new one.
Let's power loop in the middle of a street when I can't control a quad. Sure.
Yeah, and then go.
I did like that
That-
little.
I'm going
sequence
wrong.
that-
Let's do it more. I don't get that.
Yeah, I did like this little not sequence. What's the word? This little subsection of LDO where we get to have a little crash compilation. That was fun. That was
Yeah.
that was cool.
I don't think anything beats Jack's special "Let's reverse into a hill crash." That was my favourite.
Wait, where's the footage?
Was that way back when you were learning to freestyle, Jack?
No, that was the failsafe.
Now you say it's a failsafe, but others have said that maybe control link was in fact intact at the time.
No, because the quad
We need
beat.
DVR. We need DVR and we need footage. We need proof.
I did.
To be fair, hills are quite easy to, miss.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, when first time I was in the UK, I was in this massive hill, or whatever I don't know what you want to call it. There's this big valley, and I was flying my DJI Mavic Pro. This is before I ever actually flew FPV, and I was like, I can fly DJI. I'm in full control. I know how to fly drones. I'm good. And then I magically backed up into a rose bush, and I think it was some kind of like prickly bush, and yeah, I had to reach my hand in and get thorns out of my hand after, and yeah, that was an interesting time.
Ow.
I should have now let you have a go at the whoop because you
Oh yeah, you're
can
right.
actually fly it now.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
actually flown a tiny whoop before. I know, huh? And the first time I tried to, all I could do was flop on the ground with it.
Yeah, and then you were like, "What's wrong with this thing?" And I'm like,
This thing's out of control, man.
"Yeah, what's wrong with it is you."
Oh man, I've learned so much over the last year of flying.
Yeah. If like when you do go back to DJI, mind you, you're probably like you don't notice it because you're always flying it. But do you now feel like, do you forget yourself and do you feel it kind of fighting you to fly? You're trying to fly it and it doesn't quite exactly do what you want it to.
Well, I will say this. So, pre-FPV, I was a thumber for DJI.
Yeah.
I started flying FPV, and I'm a pincher, or like a hybrid pincher-thumber kind of guy. Now when I fly DJI, I pinch now because I just feel weird just using my thumbs. And as far as the whole like fighting me and whatnot, yeah, it's not a very user friendly. Well, okay, sorry, that's a lie. It's extremely user friendly because anyone can do it. But I don't know. Now that I've flown acro, now that I've flown manual, there's only certain moves that I do with a DJI drone now. I let it go straight up. I let it go straight down. I let it go forward. I let it go backwards. I might pan and I might tilt the camera, but I don't actually try to like fly it and cruise it around like an FPV drone or like an actual quad, because you just can't do it. And if you try to, you're gonna probably crash it because it's not as responsive. It's not, I don't know. It's a DJI drone. It's not a full manual. So
you can't ad lib a course. You've got to have it planned out.
I mean, you can kind of cruise, and if you have an open enough area, but it's not something that you would really, that I personally would like send out far and low and try to like maneuver through obstacles.
I think the difference for me is it's not hard to go between the two because they're so different in many ways.
Yeah.
But when you're flying like a DJI whatever, you're not just going out and saying I'm just going to have a fly. That's not the quad you take for that. You're doing it like I want to get a picture of this or an aerial view of that. And apart from the up, down, left, right, the other thing you might do is like the sort of circle round thing.
Oh yeah.
But that is literally about it. Or if you've got a battery left, then you might just go round and round the field until it comes down to like 30%. But you never get sort of confused that you're flying something else. Do you ever fly yours with? I've just got a Mavic Mini FPV mode.
I have tried it. Yeah, I've tried sport mode. Basically, shortly after I got into FPV flying, like with acro, I was like, okay. Oh, sorry. Actually, I lied. I had only flown in the sim first, and I was like, whoa, I love flying FPV, so I'm going to try sport mode on my Mavic, and I'm going to go fast now, like an FPV drone. That was interesting, but I have tried the FPV mode. It's shit. It's like the gimbal doesn't really like work properly, and even in sport mode and FPV.
How do they integrate the gimbal with FPV? Do you have a separate hat for the gimbal
mode
or something?
Is specifically it doesn't correct the gimbal on the roll, so it's a little bit like you're flying a really stable wing. As you go and turn, the camera turns with you. So if you want to give the effect that you are actually flying in something other than just a stable drone, you can get this sort of effect that you're sort of turning and look, I'm flying like a bird, sort of whatever. Just as a bit of a difference. I've had it on one of my auxiliary buttons just for fun, and I occasionally look and say, what's this do? I say occasionally, I don't fly very often, but it's all right.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's kind of like it's just another perspective or another way of making a shot look different. And I know you referred to the sort of like, what do they call it? Is the helix or the circular or the
spiral?
Object? Yeah, the spiral. I mean, the only times I ever really do that is with a quick shot mode, and then I'm not even flying it, right? Like, if I want to get like a perfect orbit around, thank you, Jack. If I want to get a perfect orbit, I'm not going to try to manually do it. I'm going to go to the object that I want to orbit. I'm going to fly back in the radius that I want. I'm going to press a button, and I'm going to press record, and then I don't have to do anything. And it's like
easy,
just simple and
I forget about those modes. I already fly it myself. The only time I use one of those modes is if I want to do a follow me shot for whatever reason. Yeah. Which I haven't done for a long time either. The last time was I built the dodgy skateboard and I had it follow me, and it managed to avoid a tree somehow, which I was quite impressed with. It sort of got there, and it's like the tree was here and it's coming here, it's following me, and it's like it was sort of trying to build up the courage, and it just went for it and got through the gap. Fun times.
What I was thinking about when Cole talked about FPV mode was, wouldn't it be nice if there was a hat that did the camera like you used to have on kind of flight sticks and stuff?
How do you mean?
So you're flying with two sticks. You're not using the other. Maybe you're pinching, but you've got some other finger. You could have the hat like on the back of a controller. So say you've got some little controller like this. You could have a hat on the back. So you're flying with this, and you could like move the camera around, or you could have your sliders for the pan and tilt of the camera as roller sliders, but you could like literally be controlling the camera as well as the pitch, roll, yaw, and throttle. You could just have an extra 2-axis and do
you've
that.
got the extra 1-axis to control the camera on most.
You can control the tilt, and also there is
control the tilt. Actually move the camera around. You could do like tank steering effectively, where you fly around something and you stick the camera out sideways and move the camera around as you want instead of just up and down.
I mean, I think they do kind of have that option for like dual operator mode for some of their quads. Where like I could be lying.
The Pro stuff has like full-on 2 radios. I'm talking about one radio
stuff.
Yeah. Well, there is also, now that you say that, there is like in the DJI settings, there is something that's called like you can adjust the follow or something of the camera where it'll do as you want it to, or it will kind of instead of following, like instead of just staying on the 3-axis gimbal and whatever, it'll actually kind of follow the movement of the quad instead. I haven't played around with it though, and it's been a long time since I looked at that.
I had a similar frustrating moment this week after playing a lot of that Trip sim, which is an Unreal Engine based sim that looks quite flashy, similar to Uncrashed, and you can chase motorbikes and eagles and odd bits and pieces and skydivers and things. I then picked up Star Wars Squadrons on a sale, and I started playing that, and I got really annoyed because I was using a gamepad. I've got this like 8-bit DO Xbox thingy for the PC, only it's got rubbish thumbsticks, right? And they're just not very precise. So I knew I've created an adapter for Express LRS with a USB-C on it. So I just grabbed my radio and tried to use that, and I had the precision, but then the menus insisted that one of my switches was actually an axis. So the menu just turned into this like epileptic fit where it was trying to spin through fields 50 times a second and just flashing constantly at me until I unplugged.
Did you mean like this?
That. Yeah, like that.
Oh, it's a PlayStation 2
joystick
control stick on the back of a transmitter.
Yeah, I like that.
That's cool.
Maybe, but
then that would allow you to control the pan and tilt. I just thought you guys kind of needed a visual.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, so because you can slide the camera side to side, but with something like that, you could just be like boink and just point the camera at an object as you're flying past, and you could do like a proper 2D tracking of the object while you're FPVing around it.
Need new drones.
Might give you a
Most of them don't allow that access to. I say you need a new drone for that. Most of the current ones don't allow you to change the pan.
Oh,
yeah. Right. I feel like it's really hard to. Like it would be really hard to like, you're already kind of doing a lot as far as flying in the direction. I feel like adding another finger to try to do something else might.
Well, you could rub it on your leg. You can. You laugh, but like we had Ben Heck on, and one hand controller mods have the other joystick analog input at the bottom, and you press it against your leg, and that's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so you are very.
All I'm remembering is the bottom sketch when Richie plays cricket.
Yeah, and you looked longingly as you polished the ball. That's one for you. I know.
Yeah,
it's not saying without Tony on here with bottom jokes.
Unfortunately, so.
Sorry, Carl. Carry on.
Yeah, I was going to say something else that we sort of didn't touch on yet, but did you guys see the sort of speculation or the leaks about the GoPro Hero 11 Mini?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing what people
mostly
can do rendering things these days.
Yeah.
Have we got a picture in case anybody hasn't seen it?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Obligatory product render if you haven't seen it already. Just search Twitter GoPro 11 Mini.
Let's see.
It is unsurprisingly a smaller version of a GoPro. Oh my god, would you believe it? It's as though someone took the image and then selectively shrunk it along the Z-axis. It's incredible. How did they do it? No idea.
Supposedly this guy right here, though. Yeah, supposedly this guy that with the watermark on there, or somebody that leaked it, is somewhat reputable. I don't know. Like that's what I just read.
I mean,
somewhere.
It might very well happen, but it's not a real product. It is a render. Let's be clear. So
yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
They may be going to release it, but that is not a real thing in the flesh. That is a product render.
I wonder if what happens is GoPro releases this and then gauges the reaction from people to see if they're excited, and then say, "Oh, we should build it."
Yeah.
People are excited about it.
I mean, to be honest, like I was reading about it. People were saying that, again, this isn't like a true. I don't know how true it is, but people were saying that it was somewhere around like the 110 to 120 gram weight, which, if that's true, that's that's kind of too heavy compared to a session. But it is. How much does a GoPro 9 or 10 weigh?
That's just what I was checking. I think it
about
is
4 metric tons.
1.22 pound. What the fuck is a pound? Oh my god!
One of those things the Americans use to measure weight.
153 grams.
Okay, so this. Oh, sorry here. So yeah, so what I was
33 grams of that.
So what I was saying is like, okay, so if a full size GoPro is that weight, this is 110 to 120, which isn't. I mean, I guess that is a reasonable amount less, but it's still not a session. But if it packs the punch of a GoPro 10 or better, since it's the 11, and it's a little heavier, I mean, it seems like it could be a pretty awesome option. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like the idea. I mean, I think the 10 is far too heavy, really, to go in a regular quad. It's kind of like after the 7, everything started getting heavier and heavier, and you're like, this is a bit silly. Where's this going? So it needs it, and I think the Bones is A, overpriced, B, not available for us in the UK anyway.
Or Canada.
And something that looks like it would take a hit, like a regular GoPro, and isn't as heavy, can only be a good thing.
I'm frustrated by the pay more for less that we've seen with the Bones. And also the fact that the cost of modern GoPros is up there with the cost of devices that include a camera and do a lot more than just a camera. The price model seems to have just gotten out of control. They've got no competition, and it's too expensive.
Yeah, so you're not necessarily fully paying for the camera. You're paying for the brand name too, right? So, sorry.
Think if the Bones has the GoPro Racing Edition, where they've taken the car and they've stripped it out, they've made it lighter, and they charge you an extra 50 grand. It's kind of like that. Aston Martin do it, Porsche do it all the time. Expensive versions of.
You're paying to get a 5,000 unit limited run of something that's normally done in 200,000 unit runs.
Audio Gex says there's been serious rumors of a small GoPro for a while now. Yeah, there's been rumors about that since literally the Session 5, which has been what, like 5 years or something like that.
It's been a recurring news item. You could almost set your watch by it. Like every time there's a new GoPro version, someone says, "Are they going to make a new version of the Session?" And the answer so far has been no. And every time there's been a new product launch, someone's mocked up something that looks like the Session but with slightly updated corporate styling, and everyone's gotten really excited and pissed themselves over it. So colour me skeptical. If this does happen, fine, but it's happened every single time they've released the GoPro 7, 8, 9 and 10. So,
and everyone's like, "Oh, the Session's coming, the Session's coming." And then what was it? Runcam did the 5 orange, Foxier did the Foxier box. Now DJI's got the Action 2 and apparently the Action 3 coming.
I mean,
talk about like how much camera 150 quid will get you. That's more interesting to me. That Runcam Thumb Pro is about 100 quid. How much camera would 150 quid get you? Would it be something that would get you close enough to a GoPro that you wouldn't complain, and then you wouldn't cry bitter tears when you smashed it?
Well, I got the Runcam 5 orange, and I was kind of like I bought the Session, I was like, oh, I love this session. I do not want to destroy it because it's a magical unicorn. So then I bought the Runcam 5 Orange, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Albeit the super view isn't quite as super as the GoPro, but it's also not as durable. One hit and it's done. And but I still love the GoPro. Like the session is still, I don't know.
Were you thinking about the orange there, or?
Yeah, the Runcam 5 Orange. Yeah, like it's great. It works. It's good, but it's still not as good as a GoPro. I mean, it's.
That's a couple of years old though now, maybe 4 years, in fact.
But the Runcam 5 Orange.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up there. But so, you know what? One thing that I did find about the Runcam 5 Orange was that I don't know. I seem to like the way that it exposed the image better than the session, but again, that's all subjective. And
it's nice. I think the main gripe people have with the Orange is that people tried to, backport all this gyro flow stuff into it, and for whatever reason, it couldn't hack gyro flow data. It would just give you bad gyro data.
Well, not to mention that system was completely flawed. Like when I first got the Runcam 5 Orange, 4K 30 non-super view just didn't work. It just made a corrupt file, and basically they had codecs on it that just didn't actually work. So I brought it to their attention with a bunch of emails back and forth, and I had a lot of complaints because I wanted to try it not just in the super view for other purposes, not just drone related. And eventually, actually, a new firmware did come out, and it fixed it, which was nice. And that's around the time when GyroFlow was introduced to the Runcam 5 Orange. I think it was about maybe 6 months or more ago.
For pilots like you that are flying analog, it'd be neat to see something like the Runcam Hybrid that could do GyroFlow as well. Like just put it into your actual FPV camera.
Yeah. Although I don't want to say I'm like anti-GyroFlow. I'm just like, I don't necessarily need stabilization, and it's like you get your quad flying well, maybe a little stabilization would be nice, but I don't know. I just don't want the hassle of having to do too much.
Did you ever mess around with Cadex Tarsier or the Runcam Hybrid?
No.
Those were like a 19mm mount. Sorry.
I've got some Tarsiers. They work quite nice. One of the problems with the early versions of like let's do an HD camera and FPV camera all in one is they did it with one lens. And the FPV camera always suffered. So the Tarsier had pretty good FPV camera, and the recording's quite nice on it as well. I haven't actually used the Runcam one, I don't think, but I've got about 3 or 4 Tarsiers kicking around.
Right. That's why I was calling out the Tarsier and the Hybrid, because those were kind of the culmination, where after a series of like aborted launches of trying to do everything with a single lens FPV and HD recording, both Runcam and Cadex produced a system that had an FPV camera with a separate lens for the HD camera, and they put them both in a 19mm mount. And they kind of admitted that you couldn't do both in a single camera.
So we all agree that the GoPro Hero 11 Mini, let's face it, GoPro would not give the steam of their piss to us. They're not going to do it.
Not for less than 500 quid.
It's like they're selling so many GoPros 10s, and the majority of people that are using them are the people that are out just doing general filming. So they want the camera on the front, they want to strap it to helmets or whatever. GoPro give them to us, and we just smash them up and ask for new ones all the time. It's not in their interest to like, we've got to help these drone pilots out. They keep smashing our cameras.
The Session 5 was so popular with FPV pilots is because it was good value, and it was good value because it was like one of the main GoPro cameras. It wasn't a weird camera that they stripped down for FPV enthusiasts. It was like one of their main cameras. And if they create a one-off for FPV enthusiasts because their main camera line's too heavy and too big, then it's going to be really expensive because they're not going to be doing the volume.
Yeah, I mean,
I can only suggest that Sorry, I was just saying, I can only suggest that the sessions weren't successful in the mainstream as much as the proper cameras were, because people wanted to see what they were looking at most of the time when they're trying to line their shots up.
Well, or they got to the point where they couldn't really do a lot with the optics to make it look better. So what they had to do was then stick features on the side to justify a new revision. You see that a lot with products where the main focus of the product has basically been perfected. And so what they do is then they put features that you don't really want on the side of the product and sell it as a new version, often with some must-have feature software locked into the product, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Mighty Car Mods guys use sessions on their helmet for helmet cams.
Yeah,
So
I would say. Well, what I was gonna say about the bone, like I would feel like the bones was like the FPV. You know, like okay, FPV guys, you get the bones. I still feel like there's a lot of use cases for like a more small, compact, durable, no screen action cam that looks amazing and shoots amazing, you know, stable footage where, you know, like Jack said, like on a skydiver's helmet or a car, you know, race car driver's helmet, stuff like that, where you might not necessarily want to have a huge camera. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just hoping. I'm like, fingers crossed. Like, come on, guys.
Weight and space in the cockpit. Let's face it. If you're in a car, you haven't got that bit of space. You've only got really the side of your head. And if the camera's really big, it's just going to cantilever, and you're going to have a stiff neck. It's like back in the day with a 90s phone. You know, Dutch tilt. Is that racist? I don't know. If it is, I'm sorry.
But I hope I can find it.
It would be great to see
Dutch brother
GoPro ask
there.
themselves, how small can we make this? And then just sell everyone the smallest possible camera. It feels
Speaking
like
of 90s,
they're trying to push features.
is that the kind of fun you're talking about, Jack?
Oh my god,
Yeah.
how much of a hipster? How you went out and bought that? Because there's no way you owned that in your lifetime.
No, so actually, I got this off of basically like a
Can you read the model number?
Yes, I will, but I will explain something first. So I actually got it as a prop for a music video that I was shooting for an artist, and it was like I think I got it for like $3 off of a guy on like a local buy and sell thing. It actually still works if I plug it in. Model number, let's see. Do I know how to do this? Wait, no, wrong way. Okay, hold on. Yeah, but yeah, these are massive. I can't. Okay, there we go. Battery's coming off now. And battery is not that swollen, surprisingly. Okay, so Motorola.
I think my 5110's in the loft.
I
Where it
don't know.
belongs.
I don't know if that tells you
The road
what it
has
is.
got a number.
Haha, now we know your serial number. We can steal this old phone. Haha.
Oh no!
That
Yeah.
might have been the
Someone
first
look it
phone
up.
I had, and the SIM card was credit card size. You had to shove the whole thing in.
Yeah, I don't even know where the SIM card. I don't even know if it has a slot for a SIM card.
Look for a
Yeah.
full-size slot at the bottom.
I literally think, yeah, you're right. Nor quad. Sure, we got the bones for FPV, but we can't bash with it. It's way too fragile. I literally think that they've kind of looked at us as a complete hindrance and like some sort of cost sinkhole.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
if you've
They've stripped
got
features out of their own official app, so you can't configure it properly with the app now. You need to use the screen. Whereas what people would actually want is, oh, what's the best touchscreen device that I've got to configure my camera? It's not the camera, it's the phone. So let me just pick up my phone and use that. GoPro are intent on pushing people away from the easiest route.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit upset for a while because with the session, they took away the ability to change Pro Tune settings within the app, and which they used to have that setting before. You could actually change, you know, your white balance, your, you know, whatever parameters. And apparently in recent updates of the app, they brought it back. So that was a good thing, but I just use the QR code with the Labs firmware now, so.
Like they could make a camera that just has a battery and no screen, and it's got great optics and it's got great stabilization, and it's rugged. It's got a nice metal chassis, but they're not doing it, are they? For whatever reason.
They should.
They hate us. They,
Yeah.
they hate us, and they wouldn't give us the steam off their piss.
But we love them.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to show them more love, and then they'll be like, "Oh yes, FPV boys will, and girls. Let's."
Boiling
let's share
piss
the love."
aside, I think that they're clearly the marketing team wants to boast of new products, and a new product like the Runcam Thumb Pro, while it's exactly what we need, is not a very boasty product. It's not very exciting. Like, it's a camera, it takes really good recordings, it stabilizes your video. This is the Pro one, Harry. Is that the one you're struggling with? Or?
Yeah, the Pro one is still got a problem if you put it on like a proper size quad. I think the problem is we'd have a lot more options if GoPro didn't own and defend very heavily their patent on in-camera stabilization, because it basically says no one else can do stabilization in this one pass situation. You have to take the file out, you have to cock about with it on Gyroflow or whatever. And that's the major advantage GoPro has. But if anybody goes and brings out something similar, they will absolutely come after them, because that's their bread and butter. They will. Yes, everyone hates patents. They're bad. Yeah. They're just made for companies to trade with each other to stop anybody small coming up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, like iPhone have to pay a patent for like real timing, stabilization.
They'll probably do the secret Masonic handshake,
Yeah, they literally will swap. Say, okay, we won't sue you for that one if we can use this one of yours, and you don't sue us for that one.
Yeah,
which is fine if you're big companies, but if you're someone else trying
big companies
to
build these patent war chests, and they're like, we won't sue you for that if you don't sue us for this, and then we won't sue you for that in the next product if you don't sue us for that. Call it a partnership. We've both got 15 guns pointed at each other's heads, but we promise not to pull the trigger, yo.
No worries. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. And would you like to outro everyone, Stephen?
Oh, but shouldn't we talk about all of our lovely patrons and all that stuff?
Our patrons, you are so lovely. Thank you so
we love you.
Also, next week we will have Menace RC.
If you want to be a patron of this show, please go to patreon.com and look for Let's Drone Out. You can join us on a number of different levels. You can even sponsor us to be an editor of the show. You can go even further in your fiscal irresponsibility, and we will dedicate a show to you, and only you. We will talk about whatever you want. But
that would be amazing if someone does that.
Please sign up on Patreon. There are unexplained costs, largely of removing all the beeps, or putting in the beeps and removing the cussing, which takes time and professional expertise, and someone has to make our voices sound like professionals, and that takes 90% of the time. It's a tough job.
Yeah. Editing. I mean, trying to make that, the live episode with only one mic, make it so that anyone listening to that just on audio didn't make their ears bleed. Thank you, editor. We salute you. We love you as much.
Amazing job.
As our lovely Patreons. So
everyone is getting wireless lavs whenever we do anything.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Who were we joined by tonight, Stephen?
We have been joined by everyone's favourite Curry Kitten.
Goodbye.
One day
our man in Canada and media expert Cole Anderson.
See ya.
The inimitable Jack.
I don't even know what that means, but thank you.
People can't copy you. You're too rare. And myself, Stephen. Thank you, our wonderful Patreons. See you next week. Cheers.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.